Hi, welcome to Virtually Sunday. My name is Tony Pickler. Welcome to this fourth Sunday of Advent. And on this Sunday, we're reminded that sometimes great things come out of unexpected places and unexpected events. Which reminds me of a time when our son, Andy, was 10 years old and entering Little League. And the league needed another coach, and they asked me if I would coach his team, a new team, an expansion team. And I said, well, I would help, but I didn't really want to be the head coach. So they found a head coach named Keith, and he and I became the coaches for this team. And we went through the tryouts, and then unfortunately, Keith was going on a family vacation when it was time for the draft. So before he went, he developed a list of who he thought we should draft, who he thought I should draft. So we had two expansion teams, and we had a coin flip, and unfortunately our team lost, and so we were choosing second, the other expansion team first. And so Keith had given me this list of 10 players on the left-hand column of the sheet and 10 players on the right-hand column. And so as the draft began, the other expansion team chose who we had as our first player on the left-hand column. So my eyes went to the right-hand column, and I chose the first player up there on the right-hand side. The next draft got taken, and the other expansion team chose their next player. I went to the right-hand column and chose our next player, and so on. They kept drafting seemingly from our left column, and I kept drafting from the right column. Well, when Keith got back from Florida, he wondered, who did we get? And I said, well, Keith, we had a really great draft. Here's who we got. And as I was listing off the players we drafted, he kept scratching his head and wondering why I hadn't chosen this player on the left-hand side. When it dawned on me that he had written these in the two columns, column left being number 1 through 10, column right, the right-hand column being 11 through 20. I had chosen players 11 through 20. The other team chose basically the top 10 players in the draft. Well, you would think we would have been ragamuffins for the next 3 years. And we weren't. We came out of the gate, we won our first 2 games, and the parents and the players all thought we were just like the next coming of Vince Lombardi or something. And unfortunately, we proceeded to lose our next 10 games. Finished out the year 2-10. To finish the story, in years 2 and years 3, we took that group of somewhat ragamuffin players and coached them up to become a Final Four team, vying for the championship. They had become something great. Out of an unexpected circumstance, out of an unexpected origin, they had become a pretty darn good team. Which reminds me of our readings for this Sunday, the fourth Sunday of Advent. In that first Sunday, Bethlehem is reminded that Bethlehem is going to be the birthplace of the Messiah. Not Jerusalem, not this great city, the greatest city or one of the greatest cities on earth at the time, not Jerusalem, but Bethlehem, this backwater town. Unexpected place, unexpected event happening, something great. In the second reading, Paul's letter to the Hebrews, I would say it's kind of bold to say that he was telling them to forget their past, forget what they'd always done, and try something new. He reminded them it isn't sacrifices that God wants from us. He doesn't want our burnt offerings. Rather, what God wants is for us to do God's will, to provide a body, a mind, a spirit attuned to God and God's will. And then in the third reading, the gospel reading, we're reminded that Jesus was born into a patriarchal society in the first century. Men ruled the day. And Luke's gospel is a little bit different in the fact that he holds up women as having this critical role in salvation history, in the story of Jesus and the early church. Mary visits Elizabeth. We've heard this story from different perspectives already, even this year. But Mary visits Elizabeth, and while she does, John leaps in Elizabeth's womb when he encounters a yet-to-be-born Jesus in Mary's womb. 2 women in a simple story playing a tremendous role in the story of Jesus' birth. Unexpected people playing unexpected roles in a great, great event. What about our lives? Do we encounter God in unexpected places? Let's face it, our world right now is going through a lot. Where do we encounter God incarnate in this time and in this place? In the devastating tornado in Kentucky and all of the destruction there. In the over 1,000 people in our hospitals in our state fighting for their lives from the COVID virus. The school shooting that recently happened in Michigan. The 7 shootings that happened in our own community on one night. And the ramp up in gun violence in our own community. Where's God in all of this? Where's our faith in all of this? Is it time for despair? The great Jewish theologian Abraham Joshua Heschel wrote, "It's customary to blame secular science and anti-religious philosophy for the eclipse of religion in modern society. It'd be more honest to blame religion for its own defeats. Religion declined not because it was refuted, but because it became irrelevant, dull, oppressive, insipid. When faith is completely replaced by creed, worship by discipline, love by habit, when the Christ of today is ignored because of the splendor of the past, when faith becomes an heirloom rather than a living fountain, when religion speaks only in the name of authority rather than with the voice of compassion, its message becomes meaningless." Unquote. For us to recognize the birth of Christ in our world today, the power of Christ's existence, we might need to be creative. We might need to look in unexpected places. We might need to keep our eyes, our ears, our minds, and our hearts open to recognizing the Christ where we least expect the Christ. In Bethlehem, in the Vatican, in Alloway, in our hearts, in our homes. Peace be with you in finding the Christ in your midst today, in sometimes even the most unexpected places.